its energy at least is still there. And every now and then, I was going off this idea that it's sleeping beneath the mountain, and every now and then, it either kind of wakes up or it puts off this energy, right? And then that's when the weird stuff starts happening. Maybe it's in cycles. Maybe it's every.
And do you believe that Davidson tapped into those cycles or along?
Yeah, I think he was well aware, and his team, like you had, I didn't even think of this, but it makes complete sense that they were well aware that something was going on here, and they were working off of that, because it completely plays in with this whole like cytronic warfare that they were all investigating during the Cold War.
And you were also mentioning that they were into cryogenics, and then you said, "Oh, the sleeping giant." You know, those two things kind of go together as well. Like perhaps they did discover this entity, and they were using cryogenics to keep it sleeping, and maybe
that even makes sense.
Extract, you know, like what did they do on sleeping entities? Like, okay, let's go to what was that? Transformers, when they found Megatron and he was cryogenically frozen. And they're conducting experiments on him, and they want to keep him cryogenically frozen so they can continue to study this entity. What's not to say that is actually what happened? I'm Rye, your Kodega, here to lead you through the shadows of the unknown. My journeys have carried me across hidden corners of the world to places steeped in wonder, whispers, and unanswered questions. Walk with me as we uncover ancient civilizations, unravel unexplained phenomena, and chase the legends that refuse to die. Welcome to Kodega's Codex of Curiosities. All right, everyone, welcome back to another episode of Kodega's Codex of Curiosities. I'm Rye, the Kodega, guiding you on these mysterious mysteries, these unexplained events, this high strangeness. You know, we got everything from lost history to werewolves to Sasquatch and conspiracies as well, and just the unknown in general. So tonight, I'm going to have Nick from Almost Canon on the podcast, and I'm really looking forward to that conversation. But before we jump there, like I always ask, if you're listening on Apple or Spotify, make sure you guys give that 5-star review. It really helps to spread the show and to share it. If you're on YouTube, make sure you hit subscribe, hit the bell so you get notified when my next episodes come out, because I'm noticing some of you are not watching. And until then, you know, leave a comment. Tell me what you're thinking about the show. All right, everyone. Let's get to it. So, Nick, welcome to the Codex of Curiosities.
What's going on?
Awesome to have you here. You know, I think this has been quite, and I say this with a lot of my guests, this has been quite the time in the making. You know, this took us a while to get together to actually do this. I think we've been talking now for over a year, easily over a year. And it's kind of like either I'm dropping the ball or you are, or we're just hit and missing, whatever. But here we are. We made it work. So, Nick, why don't you give a shout out to your show? And if there's anything else you want to tell us where to find you as well.
Yeah, sure. I do a podcast called Almost Canon. And it's really just, you know, I've tried to get onto YouTube. And it's just such a hassle to import the episodes on there. So I really don't have a big YouTube presence, but we're really just an audio show like Apple Podcasts or Spotify or, you know, any of those places. I'm slowly trying to, you know, move on to YouTube. But yeah, Almost Canon. I mean, we've been at it for, I feel like, a while. I took a little bit of a break. I had a co-host for a while. Now it's just me.
All right. And what is Almost Canon? Is it like, what are you showcasing in your show?
Yeah, I mean, pretty much the same stuff you're doing, just all around weird things, cryptozoology, ancient history, lost treasures. I love the lost treasure stories. It doesn't seem like a lot of people do, but I certainly do. So I'm always doing lost treasures.
When you mean lost treasures, you mean like Oak Island or something like that, where there's been some buried treasure or something, and the search for it continues.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I actually haven't covered Oak Island yet, but I've had one of the dudes from Curse of the Frozen Gold. His name's Adam Palmer. He's looking for a treasure up in British Columbia. And I had this dude from another TV show that was looking for treasure in Arizona. And then I'll just like throw in different treasures here and there.
You know what? For me, that is something that's interesting. I'm always fascinated by a good treasure hunt. It's like I said, Oak Island or just, any type of lost treasure is always fascinating. Like the Spanish Armada that sunk I think it was in the Gulf of Mexico, I don't know, or the Caribbean, and they're searching for that as well. It's always interesting. But I always get disappointed watching some of the shows that actually showcase it, and they never find anything. They build this hype, and it's nothing. Yeah. And it's like, oh, we got these detectives, and nothing. So hopefully you have some guests that actually have found something, and you'd be like, yeah. But nonetheless, the story itself, or the history of it, is also just intriguing.
Right. Yeah. It's definitely that. I think the history that intrigues me the most, and I think like more so my favorite would be like legendary lost treasures, like the Holy Grail, or like the Chintamani Stone, or some obscure treasure, like the Sorcerer's Stone, things like that.
Yeah, I was thinking like the Philosopher's Stone or something like that. Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. Okay, so some fabled legendary treasures, and those. Yeah, those are quite interesting, And I wonder how many we have actually found that we're not told about as well. It's like, oh yeah, keep looking, and they have it kind of like when you're watching Indiana Jones and I think it was the first one, and the
right.
Ark. Yeah, and they
and they put in the huge warehouse
full of all these other and it's just like, I believe there's so much truth to that. It's just ridiculous. All right.
Yeah, it's got to be.
So, Nick, you are going to be talking about a triangle, if I'm not mistaken here. Which triangle? Like the most infamous, of course, is the Bermuda Triangle. But there are so many other ones out there that many people don't know. Let's go into it.
Yeah. So I live in Vermont. This, the little state up north, and we have like Champ, kind of like the Loch Ness Monster. And other than Champ, and we supposedly have a Pigman. These are like the three major things you'll hear if you're looking into weird stuff in Vermont. So you have Champ, the Pigman, and the Bennington Triangle. Super interesting area. It doesn't, I guess it's because we're such a small state that it kind of just gets thrown to the side and no one really knows about it. Sometimes I see like some, I don't know, bigger influencers will mention it or bring something up, but they always talk about kind of, the Wikipedia, whatever you can pick up off Wikipedia, but there's so much more going on down there. It's incredible.
They just gloss over
the Bennington Triangle.
So they just gloss over it, is what you're saying. They kind of give you the highlights, but they don't dive deep into the nitty and gritty, and perhaps even the more interesting that is, or the more obscure as well.
Right. Yeah. There's, I guess it's most famous for missing people. It's a hot spot in the missing 411. Like if you look into missing 411, it's like a hot spot, but at the same time, no one's gone missing in decades. But there was a time when people were just going missing, like boom, 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 year after year after year after year for about 10, 15 years.
That's it. That's interesting that you say that. I've never actually, I wonder if there's a graph plotted out for like, okay, missing in this decade, missing in this decade, and missing in this decade in conjunction with the missing 411, and to see if there's some sort of pattern, like, if it's like a trail of, a trail of missing people or something along that line. That's interesting because you're saying there's not many people missing now, but years ago there was.
Right. Yeah. Like people have been lost as of recently. People have gotten lost in the fire station or the police station, or whatever. They've gone out and had to find these people, and they've reported weird things, but no one's actually gone missing since the 50s. And speaking of patterns, when I'll get into it, I'll definitely go over the missing people. It's probably one of the most mysterious things about the triangle. It's not the most interesting, but it is mysterious, and you'll definitely notice something weird going on here. There's the dates, and it's just something weird, super weird going on with the dates. You'll definitely pick up on it. It's pretty obvious. And I often pushed when I first got into looking into the Bennington Triangle. People are like, oh, it's a serial killer. It's obviously a serial killer. I often push that aside. I'm like, that's not cool. I don't want to talk about serial killers, right? I want to talk about like alien abductions or UFOs. There's man-eating rocks up there, supposedly.
What?
Like, yeah. I want to talk about like these people stepping on a man-eating rock and just disappearing. But I found something.
Sorry, man-eating rock or portal, and they disappear that way.
Exactly. I found something, and I'm really the only one, I think, who's kind of put this together. So it's kind of exciting. I found something, and now I am all in on serial killer.
Oh, okay.
But it's not what you think it is.
Okay, so at first you're like, yeah, no, and now it's like I'm all in on serial killer. Okay,
but it's definitely not what you're thinking.
I'm assuming so, because I'm thinking some maniac with some zip ties or some rope and a knife or something like that.
No. It's so much more in depth, and just personally, maybe it's just because I'm from Vermont that it just blew my mind. It's really cool. At the same time, these were real people who went missing, so I don't know how cool it is, but there's definitely something weird going on here.
I have done that before where I'm like, oh, this is so interesting. Oh, so cool. And yes, it is real people who have gone missing and presumably dead. We don't know. But yeah, so that's not cool. But I know what you're saying. This is like, it's a fascinating, mysterious mystery that is, it's quite enticing. So I understand completely. I'm sure everybody listening understands as well that you're not like, yeah, like obsessing with morbid, all these people are dead.
Right.
So cool. Yeah. No.
Yeah. So I don't know. Maybe we should just jump straight into the missing people, or I don't know if you wanted where you want to start from.
Let's jump straight to the missing people. Let's go straight into the missing people, and then you can tie it into this serial killer.
Okay. Yeah. Sure. So yeah, the Bennington. I'll just give a quick. I had this whole thing written out, but I'll just give a quick backstory to the Bennington Triangle. So it was originally, just this plot of empty land, right, way back in the 1700s. And I think I wrote the exact date down somewhere around here. See if I can find it.
Nah, no problem. Yeah, so it's this plot of land, and of course, in shape of a triangle. It has 3 points. I definitely would like to know those locations as well. Right. If you can give us those.
Yeah, I'll tell you right now. So Bennington, Vermont, it's one of the biggest cities in Vermont, if you want to call it a city. Most people would just consider it like a large town. So Bennington is down on one corner, and then you have like Shaftesbury, which is kind of at the top, middle to the top of the triangle. Then Woodford, and I believe Somerset. It's really not a town. It's more of just like an area. But it kind of ends within this giant lake, this reservoir, Somerset Reservoir.
I was going to ask if there was a lake or water involved with this, because that's usually a common thing.
Yeah. Right. It definitely. And this is it actually the only body to be found of these missing people was found in that reservoir. And I've even gotten Bigfoot stories from family members or a family member who doesn't believe in Bigfoot, but whatever happened to them out there, definitely Bigfoot.
But they don't believe in Bigfoot, but it was Bigfoot.
Yeah, it was. They heard like yelling and screaming in the middle of the night. Like it was definitely Bigfoot yelling. But yeah, so way back in the 1700s, it was like I wrote it down right here. 1761, this governor from New Hampshire, Benning Wentworth, founded Bennington, and then in 1761 he visited the area after the town had built up. He was like, "I want to settle that land." So he wrote up charters and all this. And while he was there, he reported some super strange activity, like mysterious lights in the woods, shadows, screaming, yelling, like. And he wrote this in his journal. And then he was still like, "Let's go settle it." And after that happened, they built like this town. There's this pretty prosperous town in the, in the, so it went from like the 1700s to like a few people living there. And then in the 1800s, it was a fairly prosperous town and they made their money on charcoal. They would cut down trees and get charcoal to send to, the iron factories and things like that. And then they kind of cut all the trees down. The town went out of business. They tried to remake it into a resort, which then got washed away in a flood. So you can go up there. You'll often hear about a ghost town, and this would be the town of South Glastonbury. All the foundations are still up there. They had massive hotel and like a casino and a rail line that went up the mountain. And you can go up there. It's quite a walk. You can see all this stuff. Foundations, that's all that's left. But you'll often hear about a ghost town in the Bennington Triangle, and this would be South Glastonbury. And it was only this resort that they after the charcoal business went out, they turned the town into a resort, which only lasted for a year, and then it got wiped away in this huge spring flood. And then everybody kind of left. And I think even to this day, there's only like 3 people who live up there, and it's all one family. Yeah. So that's kind of like the history. Sorry, I'm taking my sweatshirt off.
I like that. I like that background, that history of it. It's a good setting the atmosphere for us and the build up to where we go from here. These missing people. Then
Yeah, and there were some like weird stories of people going crazy and hearing, something's talking to them from the woods, and one guy killed another dude with a rock and then escaped and ended up getting caught, and he went to an insane asylum where he broke out and he supposedly came back and lived in the woods, and it's just like weird stuff going on. There's pretty famous Bigfoot accounts, but we can get into that in a little bit. Let's talk about these missing people. So the 1940s roll around, and people go up there and they've been hunting. Nobody really lives in that area anymore. Most of the people who go up there are from Bennington. It's not that far away. And the first person who go missing is he's a hunting guide, an older hunting guide. He was 74 years old, and his name was Mitty Rivers. Now he went missing on November 12th, 1945. And they never found him. He was leading a hunting party, and he kind of got ahead of the group. He was going to get the camp situated for when they got back. Never saw him again, and all they ever found of him was a single bullet that had like fallen out of a pocket or something, and that was all they ever found of him. And he went missing in an area called Brickford Hollow, and this area kind of comes up.
Okay. And what's interesting about that is that he's a guide. It's not like he's some random kid who's never been out in the forest or in the trees or anything like that. This is a guide. Yeah, he's 74, which some people might see as old, but considering my father-in-law is 80 some, and he is still out working on the land and doing all this. He's quite active. I don't think, like, age, of course, maybe a little bit you can take into account, but he's a guide. This is his profession, so he would know what he's doing.
Right. Yeah, and he's been in this area for his entire life. So yeah, that was Mitty Rivers. Never found him. Totally disappeared. And it really was, it was within this small area that he just completely vanished. Now, in 1946, so a year later, on I believe it's December 1st, this young woman named Paula Weldon disappears, and she's the most popular missing person of the Triangle. A lot of people just focus straight on Paula Weldon. If you're into like missing people podcasts, she'll pop up a lot. She was very wealthy. Her parents were very wealthy. This is probably why. Huge, huge, huge search for her. No one ever found really anything. And she disappeared in the same area, that Brickford Hollow. She was going to a college. I believe there's two colleges down there. I want to say it was South Bennington College, but I know that's not right. There's two colleges down there. I think it was an all-girls college, and she was going there to that school, and she all of a sudden decided late in the afternoon that she wanted to go for a hike. I believe, and I'm going to get this wrong too. I should have looked this up. So in this area, the Bennington Triangle, it's in the Green Mountain National Forest, and I want to say it's the Long Trail that runs through it. For anyone who's like a dead hiker who loves to go hiking, they will know this. There's a difference between the Long Trail and the something other trail, but this trail runs through that area. Very, very popular hiking trail. And she was like, I'm going to go hiking. So she ends up hitchhiking to this long trail. And people see her along the way. And when she gets there, she sees this old couple, and they're the last people to see her. And then she just completely vanishes. No one ever no one saw her after that. Like I said, there was a huge, huge search for her. They even established the Vermont State Police because of this search and because of all the people who had gotten together to find her. And there is one interesting thing that doesn't often get reported when it comes to her, but I think it definitely plays in, is that they were shoe prints, woman's shoe prints that match her size, that were found alongside tire tracks that looked like someone had gotten in a car. It's just something somebody had found. It was in the area. Doesn't get reported. Who knows? It might not even have been her. But I think it's worth kind of remembering as we get further along here. Now, the next person to go missing is a man named James Tedford, and he went missing on December 1st, the same day, 1949. So 3 years later, something like that. What did I say? 46 to 49, exact same day.
Yeah, I was just about to say, but the same day. That's a little weird.
Yeah, definitely weird. And James Tedford was a 68-year-old World War I veteran who was on his way back to Bennington from, I think he was visiting family. He was on a bus, and you might even heard of this because it's also pretty popular. This dude just supposedly vanished right off the bus. No one saw him get off. All his stuff was left on the bus. And he was just completely gone. As they were traveling through it would have been like between Shaftesbury and Bennington. So it was right in the triangle.
Just disappeared off the bus, and
that's what they say. But people weren't interviewed until a week after. So, but yeah, it's often said that he vanished right off the bus, but they weren't interviewed till a week after. But all his stuff was left on the bus.
Yeah, that's interesting. Like, of course, there's always the possibility the bus stopped and he got off, and then the bus left, and then something happened to him, or he just disappeared off the bus, just vanished. Yeah.
Right. And so there, like I said, there's like 5 main people who went missing in this time period. And the next one, the fourth one, is a little boy named Paul Jepson, and he went missing on October 12th, 1950. And he was 8 years old. He was only 8 years old. And he was sitting in the car, his parents' car. They owned pigs apparently, and they kept them at the town dump is what I'm picking. This is what I've read. And his mom went to feed the pigs, and while she was doing that, he stayed back in the car. When she got back, he was gone. No one really knows what happened to him. Supposedly, they followed his trail, like his scent. The dog, they brought in some dogs, and they followed him to a giant rock, apparently on the side of the road, like a boulder on the side of the road, where they found a man's glove, which is interesting. Just like Paula's footsteps, keep this in mind. They found this man's glove, and his trail went cold there. There's nothing to say that anybody picked him up. There weren't like tire tracks or anything. But he just completely vanished. And leading up to his vanishing, he had been talking to his parents about this urge, this drive to go into the mountains. And this would be Glastonbury Mountain.
An 8-year-old that's saying this.
Right. And I totally forgot to mention that Glastonbury Mountain is kind of where everything, it sits smack dab in the middle of the triangle.
So that's like the epicenter almost.
Right. Yeah. Very interesting mountain. And I don't know how we'll get into some weird stuff if you want to, because I've done some.
That is the best part. The weird stuff. You came to the right place.
Perfect. Yeah. So this is kind of like the popular stuff. I'll try to get through this quickly, and then I've got some crazy theories here. And the next person, the fifth and final person to go missing, was a woman named Frida Langer. She went missing on October 28th, 1950. So 2.5 weeks, 3 weeks after little Paul Jepson went missing. 16 days, I wrote it down. 16 days after Paul went missing. And she was 53 years old. She was hiking with family in the area. She had fallen into a brook.
Okay.
Yeah, she had fallen into a brook, got wet.
So she was with people, and okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. She was actually with her cousin. They were hiking. She fell in some water. She was like, I'm going to go back to camp and get changed. It's October. It might have been close, most likely cold out. It's almost November. So she's going to go get changed. And her husband was at camp. In some port between her cousin and her husband, she vanishes. And yeah, she was the only one to be found 7 months later in an area where people had searched. We've heard this plenty of times, 3.5 miles away from where the camp was. And they chalked it up. They said that she had drowned. She must have hit her head and drowned. That she was found in the Somerset Reservoir.
Yeah, that was the one that you're saying they found in the reservoir. Okay. But it's so strange when they say like, oh, this happened to that person. They just knock it off as like, oh yeah, that is all that happened. They just drowned. They're fine. We're not going to look into this anymore or anything else.
Yeah. And they had searched that area. Like they had searched the whole reservoir, after this had happened, for both Paul and her, because they both went missing around the same time. But yeah, she was the only one to be found. And those are the main missing people, but there were 2 others. One of them's very interesting, who went missing that don't get a lot of attention. And this was a little boy named Melvin Hills, who actually went missing prior to this, on October 11th, kind of around the same time. And all these people are going missing around the same time, or even on the same day.
Yeah, I agree, because I know, because the other boy was October 12th. But this is a different year, though. So
Yeah, different year. So this dude went missing on October 11th, 1942. Not much is known about him really, other than he went missing. And the next dude is another hunter. His name's Carl Hendrick, or Carl Herrick. I got 2 different names. and he went missing on November 11th, 1943. So almost exactly a year later, a year and a month later. And he was hunting with some family and friends, and he didn't return to camp. He was eventually found 3 days later, and he had been squeezed to death. Something had squeezed him to the point where he punctured a lung. They apparently in his like his autopsy report, they said it was a bear attack, and something had happened where the bear punctured a lung with his rib, like his rib broke. Very strange, very strange.
So we have a serial squeezer killing people out there. Okay, that's
right. A lot of people around here believe that was from a Bigfoot.
Yeah, of course.
There were some people who, like I said, went missing but were later found. They often talk about feeling weird feelings or strange weather.
Yeah, I was just going to ask, was there anything notable about their missing time, when they're gone? So strange feelings, different weather. Okay.
Yeah, like a lot of fog seems to set in. They get very confused. And definitely every single person I've ever talked to about this area has some sort of strange weather incident to tell me about, which is also kind of weird. But
that's something that ties in with like the Bermuda Triangle. People talk about like this strange fog rolling in, this electromagnetic fog. And of course, any type of electromagnetic kind of thing, anomaly, messes with us as well. To gives us that's why we have EMF readers as well. Some people, when you're doing an EMF, you're doing any type of paranormal thing that use EMF readers to see, but you need to make a baseline first because electrical devices can give off EMF, and that can give you that feeling that someone's watching or something. So this weather might be electrostatically charged, causing us to have these weird feelings. Doesn't mean it's still not paranormal. Like there's something creating this very strange weather pattern as well.
That's super interesting. I never heard of that. Yeah. Something going on with the weather, definitely. Now, here's my theory. A lot of people, they're just kind of went missing. No one's ever found them. A lot of people are like, oh, and there's also not a lot of, they weren't miners in the area. So there's not a lot of mine shafts. They were tree cutters. So they'd cut down all the trees. It's not like they had dug mines. So it's not like people are just falling down mine shafts left and right. I haven't really heard of a good explanation as to why no one has ever found these people. I mean, it's the woods, it's Vermont, it's not that big. Like somebody should have found something by now, right? And it's very strange that no one has found anything of these people. Yeah, like I had mentioned the man-eating stones. So apparently the Native Americans, the Abenaki, had talked about man-eating stones being on the mountain, or a man-eating stone. And obviously when you think of that, you automatically think of portals, like someone stepping on this stone and it's eating them, and yeah, they're just disappearing.
That's exactly, yeah. When you said man-eating stones, that was the first thing that my mind went to. And a lot of times you'll see like not Aboriginal, but like native drawings, when they do spirals, whenever you see any type of spirals, that it's a vortex, and that is in relation to portals. It goes without saying that, any type of spiral is some sort of portal. So nonetheless, I agree with you. It's a man-eating stone, but where does it go? That's interesting. Okay.
Yeah. So that was always my kind of idea. Like, yeah, they definitely like stepped on one of these stones and disappeared. But then somebody had contacted me and had told me about these mysterious tunnels under a different mountain. It's not even in the Bennington Triangle. It's next to the Bennington Triangle. It's not very far, but it's not in the triangle. It's this whole other area. And I got to, so at the time I didn't put two and two together. I was just kind of investigating a whole nother topic. And this takes place on a mountain called Mount Equinox. Not very far. It's the next town up from Bennington, the next big town. It's in Manchester, Vermont, very well-known town. and they had told me about these tunnels that supposedly belonged to a top secret underground cryogenics lab that had gone kind of defunct or went out of business in the 1960s. And these people had gone there and they had looked for these tunnels, and they believed they had found some, not while they were on the mountain, but they had found some on Google Earth. Like they were looking and they had found some, and they showed me. And I don't know, maybe not, but I got very interested in this, this top secret lab that was supposedly on this mountain. And I came across this well-known figure in the area named Dr. Davidson. And I don't want to like besmirch his name or anything. This guy did a lot of good things for the area. And this is like completely my theory. There's no evidence to say that he actually did this. So this is just something I kind of put together. But yeah, this Dr. Davidson dude, he, very successful chemist. Let's see, he got his doctorate from Columbia University in 1918. He helped develop mustard gas during World War One. He led Union Carbide's Manhattan Project contract. So he worked on the Manhattan Project, and he led. Let's see if I wrote down exactly what he did. They were producing enriched uranium via gaseous diffusion at Oak Ridge Labs. So he lived and worked at Oak Ridge Labs. And this is where I started getting like, what is going on here? This dude is in deep into some crazy secret military stuff. Like,
exactly. That always like piques the interest of many people. And just a side note, mustard gas is chemotherapy. So those people who are, thinking about chemotherapy, it's mustard gas. So have fun with that.
Really?
Do what you will with that information. Yes. Yeah.
Oh man. I often hear things like that. Like if I ever had cancer, I don't know what I would do. Like I know I shouldn't take the chemo, but I'd be so afraid.
There are many other actual, how do I say this without saying this? I'm not giving medical advice. I'm not a doctor, but there are many other treatments out there that have been proven to work, and they have been sidelined because they're usually inexpensive and they're not money making. Like chemo, I think is like a couple $1,000s a treatment. Each time you go, it's a couple $1,000s. Whereas some that I know personally are pennies. And that's the reason why it's all, suppressed. It's typical.
Yeah, I don't want to get too far off track, but I did just see a video on using viruses or to jumpstart your immune system. That
Okay, and this may sound gross to those who are listening, but urine therapy. So drinking your own urine, because your body is having issues. One of the issues is that your body, because you're saying use viruses to jumpstart. So your body's having issues seeing what is wrong within inside. So when you excrete, when you piss, you're getting rid of like anything that's bad. Well, if you re-ingest it, then your body it's kind of like a reboot. Your body can actually see what is coming in, and then it can deal with it accordingly. So it sounds disgusting, but there is it's legitimate urine therapy. I had a friend who did it who had cancer, and I'll leave it at that.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I had a friend who had cancer who did urine therapy.
I would have to do it through like a feeding tube or something. I don't know if I could drink that.
Yeah, I agree. Can I put some vodka in there or something, to try to get rid of that taste? I don't know. Not that I've ever tasted, so I don't even know what it would taste like. But okay, enough of me just taking this conversation in another direction. Let's go back to Dr. Davidson, I believe.
Yeah. And his name was Dr. George Davidson, I believe. And yeah, like I said, Oak Ridge Lab. This guy, he lived at Oak Ridge Labs while working on the Manhattan Project. He was in deep in these military contracts. Lord knows. Like I said, there's really no information on any of this other than he worked at Oak Ridge Labs. He worked on this gaseous diffusion project, blah, blah, blah. But I would imagine that, a chemist who led his department, God knows what else he got into for the military. But yeah, so Dr. Davidson began buying up huge plots of land on Mount Equinox in 1939. I'm talking huge. This dude almost owned the entire mountain, like 9 square miles of the mountain when he was done. And he builds this ski lodge, they call it the ski lodge, on this land. And he kind of builds it, and so let's see how I could talk about it. He was friends with the dude who owned Pabst Blue Ribbon, who also owned a ski resort not too far away in the next town up in Bromley, which is still there today. And this guy's like, you can't build a ski lodge there. A ski resort, you're gonna get no snow. So Dr. Davidson, after building this ski lodge, decides that he's not gonna do this anymore. So he's got this lodge just sitting there, this huge lodge. This will come up in a minute here. So over the course of the next few years, like he's coming home on vacation or whatever from, working on this Manhattan project and things like that. And I'm just saying, maybe some of the times he's coming back through correlates with some of these early people who might have gone missing. But let's see, 1947, so in 1947, Dr. Davidson completes the Skyline Drive. It's this fully paved road that leads up the mountain. I think it's even today, it's the longest private toll road in the United States. 1950, 1952, Dr. Davidson underwent a profound spiritual transformation. So kind of right after, or right before these people stopped going missing, or I guess right after they go missing, he undergoes this huge spiritual transformation. And in 1953, Dr. Davidson donates 7,000 acres of land to the Carthulians, or I'm definitely not pronouncing that correctly, but they're a Catholic order of monks from France who take a vow of silence, and they're there to this day. They ended up constructing, between 1960 and 1970, the Carthulians construct the Charter House of Transfiguration, kind of on the, on his property.
Charter House of Transfiguration?
Yeah, and they're there today. You can drive up there and see them. You can't go there, but you can see the monastery from the top of Skyline Drive. But yeah, so they kind of take over this land that he had, and he ends up dying in a hospital, and they take over his land. And what I'm saying, like I said, there's not a whole lot of evidence that proves this theory, right? Maybe if I would dig around a little more, I could find more. But I believe Dr. Davidson was kidnapping these people, bringing in. Dr. Davidson led this cryogenics lab that popped up on the internet in the mid 2000s. There was a Wikipedia page that appeared for a little while, and it talked about this lab, and then it was deleted. I've tried to find it. I've tried to have ChatGPT dig it up or whatever. It's just completely deleted. But some people remember it, and I believe that Dr. Davidson led this top secret lab, and they were doing who knows what on these people, some sort of tests on them. I guess it was a cryogenics lab that was, I guess, they're doing something with. There was a specific thing they were trying to do here, and it had to.
I need to know, because this is interesting about that.
Yeah, it had, like I said, it was a eugenics lab. There was a cryogenics eugenics lab, and they were doing something with high IQ'd individuals. I can't remember exactly what
That
they were
sounds
doing,
like
but
something tied in with like the gate what is it, the Gator Gateway program, it's so they're bringing in these high IQ people, cryogenics, freezing them maybe.
I think you're helping me develop this theory. I never put that together, but if anybody was to work on something like MK Ultra, it would be Dr. Davidson. And I don't know why I never put this together. Here we go. We're finishing the theory right
Well,
now.
when you said like Oakville or I don't know, Oakfield or Oakfield,
Yeah.
in my mind,
Oak Ridge Labs.
Oak Ridge Labs, like that sounds like something out of like Montauk, like the Montauk Project or something like that.
Have you heard of Oak Ridge Lab? Have you heard of them before?
That name, I will say something about that name rings a bell to the point that
they are.
I don't know though.
Yeah, they're incredibly infamous for working on all sorts of. They have like supposedly there's like portals opened up under there. They're like doing all sorts of crazy things. Supposedly, and even like in the public eye, they're still doing highly technical, uh, like scientific experiments and things there. And then if you listen to Confessionals with Tony Merkel, you'll hear a lot about Oak Ridge Labs because it's kind of in his backyard.
Yeah, isn't that like
it's out in like Tennessee, I think.
Okay, yes. That is where I heard it from. They were talking about that, and building of it was very hush hush and everything. So this Davidson worked at Oak Ridge Labs as well, right?
Yeah, like he was there when it first began, in the beginning. Which is also why this like I was just like, there's something going on here. This dude worked at Oak Ridge Labs. But yeah, I believe he built this lab underneath this ski resort that just kind of the top of it kind of like, was run down. I think it was open. You could visit there, you could stay there, but the upkeep wasn't very well, and it ended up just like falling into shambles.
That's a great front, is to have, it's a ski resort and many people are coming and going. No one's paying attention. No one's going to pay attention at all.
Exactly. Yeah. And then I believe he had a change of heart, maybe after meeting with these Cthulhians. There was this one figure who befriended him before he took his vow of silence. And this is how Dr. Davidson kind of got mixed in with these Cthulhians. And I have no idea how to pronounce that, by the way. That's just...
I'm going with Cthulhians. I like it. It sounds like something from like Star Trek or something. Yeah. We're going with it.
They're like winemakers. They make wine. But yeah, they're still, like I said, they're still there today. But I believe he had a change of heart. And he ended up donating all this land right around the same time this lab was supposedly went out of business. Right around the same time these people stopped going missing. It all kind of like seems to mesh together.
Or maybe he had a breakthrough and
or that.
Yeah, and he donated the land so everything was out of his name then, and it was no like less it's harder to trace things back or to I don't know, plaster something on you or to I don't know. I'm just spitballing here, just throwing out ideas. But and these Carthulians, so he donated this land to these Carthulians, these monks, and he took a vow of silence. What a great way to not speak anymore about your atrocities or things that you've done. It's like, I got a vow of silence. I'm not speaking about the things that have happened under my watch in this lab, in this cryogenics lab with high IQ personnel or people.
Yeah. That's kind of my theory. And when it comes to like Paula Weldon, they found her tracks leading to, like, she had gotten in a car, like maybe Dr. Davidson or his team had picked her up. And with little Paul Jepson, there was a man's like glove left behind, like a driving glove. Like maybe he got picked up. Like, I don't know. That's just my theory.
So you're a serial killer theory. Might not even be a serial killer. It's a serial kidnapper who maybe is conducting experiments on these people.
Right. And I think he like picked up on the energy that the triangle is putting off. And this is why, and it would make a lot of sense if he was working, doing like MK Ultra type, experiments or projects that he's working side next to this mountain, which I even believe that there's some sort of entity within the mountain that's producing this energy.
I wonder what if it's on any ley lines or anything like that.
I'm not sure. I actually never looked that up.
Because I know, of course, the 33rd parallel is always infamous for things happening. So I wonder. Let me see here. So I don't.
The Glastonbury Mountain, Vermont.
Okay, so I'm going to go with the Bennington Triangle, Vermont, and the which parallel? Which parallel? There we go. Which parallel lines? Let's see where it lies. It is on. Of course, it's not really saying which parallel. I don't know. I'll put that in. I'll put that in later. But yeah.
Yeah, I think I've had someone else look it up too. We couldn't find anything. But yeah, like I think that there's an entity on the mountain, and it's known as Talbaldak.
Oh, okay. So tell me about that. Oh, so sorry, it's on the 43rd. The approximate latitude and location is around the 43rd north. This parallel does not have any unique or widely recognized mysterious associations like those associated with certain parallels in other global legends. Okay. Still, that aside, something is going on here. So tell us about this entity then.
Right. Yeah. So this is, I don't know if this might get convoluted, maybe not. It's a little bit of a backstory I gotta tell. So the Abenaki are the Native Americans that are in this area, this specific area, and they belong to the Wabanaki Confederation, which includes several other tribes. I do not remember all the tribes, but they're kind of like the tribes that go from Vermont into New Brunswick, Canada. So yeah, it's kind of like this corridor, the top of the East Coast here, and the majority of the Wabanaki Confederation believes in the Great Spirit, like many other Native Americans. It's kind of like their god. A lot of Native Americans cultures talk about the Great Spirit. However, the Abenaki, and I'll preface this by saying I'm not Abenaki, I'm not Native American. I have reached out. They do not want to talk to me really. I'm picking this up from what I've read, and I've read quite a bit.
You can only do so much, right? You can only, if you reach out and no one wants to speak about it, it is what it is. It shouldn't stop you from researching nonetheless.
Right. And I've read quite a bit. And from what I understand, the Abenaki, as well as one other tribe within the Wabanaki Confederacy, which is up in Maine, and there's an interesting parallel between these two, they believe in an entity or a god, a creator god called Talbaldak. Kind of like the Great Spirit. It's the creator god is what created everything we see and this entity, this being supposedly resides on the summit of Glastonbury Mountain. So Glastonbury Mountain is a cursed mountain. The Abenaki, they would bury their dead on the mountain. They wouldn't go to the summit. They told the settlers when Benning Wentworth came here and said, I'm going to settle this land. The Abenaki said, don't do it. It's cursed. Stay away. Supposedly the four winds meet at the summit of the mountain, which is what causes all the paranormal happenings. But yeah, so Talbaldak, really the Abenaki, and I don't even want to try to pronounce. I want to say the Penobscot, but that might not even be correct. But yeah, so there's only one other tribe within the Wabanaki Confederacy that believe in the spirit, right? And the spirit supposedly resides on this mountain. The mountain's cursed. Now, this is where it gets crazy, and I went off the map and I started investigating. So there are 5 mysterious stone cairns near the summit of the mountain. They're not like, I've seen cairns and cairns are like stacked stones, right? Like you'll see them on the rivers and things like that. People make them. And I've seen cairns that are towering. They're tall. They're like 9 feet tall. But these aren't like that. They're low to the ground, maybe like 3, maybe 4 feet tall, and they're very wide, very long. And they weren't built by farmers. Here in Vermont and New England, we have stone walls everywhere. Farmers would, they would gather all these stones that come up in the earth every spring, and they would make. I've seen these piles. They're everywhere. This is not that. They weren't made by anyone. They were there. They've been there, and we even have an organization in New England called NERA. I believe it's New England Antiquities Research Association, and they go around all these ancient sites, right, that we have. And they investigated this area, and they said that because of the lichen growth and the moss growth on these cairns, that they're ancient. They're very, very old, like thousands of years old. And I believe them. Like, they're scientists. They're real scientists that do this stuff for a living. They've had real people up there investigating, looking into these things. If that's what they say, I believe them. It's not just like some YouTuber who's gone up there and been like, "This is ancient." These guys, they're real scientists, and they've been doing this for decades. And they even discovered they discovered the fifth one while they were up there. But yeah, so I looked at these cairns and I searched for them on the internet. I searched cairns, and there's not a whole lot. This is maybe this is a reach. But I looked everywhere for cairns that would match this, because automatically my brain goes to pre-Columbian contact. For some reason, it's always gone there. And so I'm looking for cairns that match. Here in New England, we have a lot of you could call it Viking, maybe it's Celt, maybe it might even be I don't know. There's a lot of mysterious things. We have these stone chambers that are definitely very mysterious. They're not. And I actually did a whole episode on this with the dude from My Family Thinks I'm Crazy. We did a couple episodes on this. But yeah, we did a whole episode on this, a couple episodes. It's very strange. Like, we have these stone structures everywhere around here. And a lot of people are like, "Oh yeah, farmers made those," They're not even made by farmers. And I even am coming to the conclusion that these stone walls that are there's like thousands, hundreds of thousands of miles of stone walls in New England. And I'm fairly convinced that farmers didn't even make these. They were here. Somebody else made them. And so I see these cairns, right? And I'm like, somebody else, who made those cairns? Who put them there? Because the Abenaki. Oh, and this is why I came to the conclusion that it was most likely pre-Columbian contact, because the Abenaki said they didn't make them. So who made these cairns, right? So I'm looking around the entire internet for cairns that look similar to these. I didn't find anything anywhere. Siberia, Turkey, England, France, Spain, nothing. Until I came across a set of cairns from a state park in Maine. This is very strange. Now, these cairns in Maine, exactly the same. They look exactly the same. You could put them side by side and you'd be like, "Oh yeah, those cairns came from Mount Glastonbury," even though these ones are from Maine. They're very similar. Maybe this is a reach, like I said. However, these cairns were these ones in Maine were supposedly built by an ancient culture that existed in the area, between 6,000 and 2,000 years ago. And they call them the red paint people. They don't know a whole lot about them other than farmers would be digging in their fields and they would dig up red ochre. Now, and these are supposedly grave sites. The bones were so old that they had just, disintegrated. And what was left behind was this red ochre. I don't even exactly know what it is. It's like a natural red dye material. and it became well known with these red paint people who were seafarers. Whatever they were doing, they were good at it, and they would swordfish hunters. I don't even really know what that is, other than apparently they were getting on rafts and they were hunting swordfish in the ocean. Like, these guys knew what they were doing. Yeah, like 6,000 years ago, they knew what they were doing. Um, and when I think of, around that time period, when I think of seafarers who know what they're doing, and I'm drawing a blank all of a sudden.
Yeah, when they're able to do that, they have some history, they have some knowledge of the sea. They're people of the land, but where did they get this knowledge from the sea is questioning as well too.
Right.
To be able to hunt swordfish, that's crazy.
Yeah, and so in New Hampshire, so we have Maine up here, New Hampshire down here, Vermont's over here. So New Hampshire, Vermont, Maine, and in New Hampshire, right on the coast there is a location that's been dubbed America's Stonehenge. It's like there's all these underground chambers, these weird. It's this stone structure that's supposedly super old, thousands of years old. Some people are like, "Oh yeah, someone just made that, right?" But like, this place it's astronomically aligned to, I believe, the winter solstice. Like, there's a standing stone. It if you I know uh Scott Walter did a lot of work here. Um, this place was not built by farmers. There's, like, definitely not. And supposedly there is Phoenician writing carved into the stone at this location. So when I think of seafarers who know what they're doing, who are kind of from this time period, I automatically think of Phoenicians. And supposedly there's a lot of evidence that Phoenicians actually made it to America, thousands of years ago. Um, and now I'm thinking, are these sea people? Are they Phoenicians? And this is where it gets real crazy. Did they? Because there was a time where they were rounding Africa, and supposedly on their trip around Africa, they went too wide, and they sailed across the Atlantic to New England. This is how, this is why people believe this happened. So I'm thinking, during this time, did they make it over here, right? And did these people become the sea people? And did they make their way to the Bennington Triangle, at some point in time? And did they bring along an entity like a Nephilim entity, maybe? And then that Nephilim kind of stayed behind and became this god known as Talbaldak. I don't know. That's kind of what I was thinking. I'm not sure. And then I'm thinking, like, maybe.
This is interesting. Let's build on that. So, what do you have that puts us towards that the possibility that there is a Nephilim involved in this? When they come around the Horn of Africa, you say when they're coming around there is rumors that the Nephilim migrated to south of Africa before they actually came over to Peru. They made their way to Peru. I was talking with what's his name? Oh my gosh, I was talking with a gentleman who knows his Nephilim quite well, and he was saying that they
Gary Wayne?
No, L.A. Marzulli. Oh my gosh,
Oh,
L.A.
okay.
Marzulli.
Yeah.
And he was saying that they've been tracking them, and they've gone through Africa, and then they made their way over to Peru.
So what's my evidence? I don't see. This is where it gets kind of confusing. I don't necessarily really know if I have any, other than the fact that, like, even now in my house, I'm 500 yards away from where they discovered one of these giants, right? When they were digging the railroad track here, right next to me, they discovered a giant, double rows of teeth. They kept it. They brought it. This doctor was studying it, and the Vieira brothers even came to my town and investigated this giant. and they ended up losing the trail somewhere in Connecticut. But they found a giant here, and we know that they found giants other places. So that's one, I guess, piece of evidence that I had. But my biggest evidence as to why it might be a Nephilim entity here is that, like I had started by saying, there were these two tribes, one in Maine and the Abenaki in Vermont. So the one in Maine that believe in this Talbaldak entity, they're around this mountain called Mount Katahdin. It's the biggest mountain in Maine. And on that mountain, there's lore or rumors of this. It's almost like a chimera. I don't know if I wrote exactly what animals it's mixed with, but it's supposedly a thunderbird-like entity. It's like a moose, a bear, and I don't know, something else, like a deer or something.
But all in one. Like, this entity is supposed to encompass all these types of things. That's not uncommon for the fallen angels. Actually, fallen ones are said to be like multi-faced. Some have, and I don't know which one specifically. It's not the cherubs, but there's other ones that have different faces and whatnot. So that and it could be a Nephilim as well too. We don't know. Of course, Nephilim, for those who don't know, is the offspring of the fallen angels and human women.
Right. So yeah, it's like that, and this entity, this chimera-like entity, this thunderbird that's in the lore. It's in their lore. It's been there forever. Is the pet of Talbaldak. So there's a connection between these two areas. And supposedly Talbaldak, he can call upon this thing and it'll come to him and whatnot. But these two areas, they're connected. There's just a lot of strange things going on. Now, that's probably the best evidence I have, other than the fact that the Phoenicians are also, we would also know them as Canaanites, which kind of lived in. Now, I'm not a huge biblical scholar or anything like that, but I believe, if I'm correct, the Canaanites lived with these Nephilim at one point in time.
Yeah. Yes.
You might know more than I do.
Unfortunately, off the top of my head, I believe they did. The Canaanites, I believe, did. I can't, off the top of my head, pull that off. My friend Adam Ferris would be able to tell it right away, and I'm drawing a blank right now because I know he goes into depth about the Canaanites as well. So,
but yeah, so the Phoenicians were actually the Canaanites, and just they started off as the Canaanites, and then they kind of became the Phoenicians, the seafaring culture, right? And they were master seafarers. I don't know if I brought that up, but it's actually, they're pretty fascinating in themselves. But yeah, that's kind of my theory. Now, like I said, it's just a theory, but
I like it.
I think that the entity is still there.
So you think it still exists, like physically or spiritually?
I'm not sure. I never really thought of that. I think its energy, at least, is still there. And every now and then, I was going off this idea that it's sleeping beneath the mountain. This might sound stupid, but it's sleeping, and every now and then, it either kind of wakes up or it puts off this energy, right? And then that's when the weird stuff starts happening. Maybe it's in cycles. Maybe it's every.
And do you believe that Davidson, I forget his first name, George Davidson or Dr. Davidson, tapped into those cycles or along?
Yeah, I think he was well aware, and his team, like you had, I didn't even think of this, but it makes complete sense that they were well aware that something was going on here, and they were working off of that, because it completely plays in with this whole like cytronic warfare that they were all investigating during the Cold War.
And you were also mentioning that they were into cryogenics, and then you said, oh, the sleeping giant. Those two things kind of go together as well. Like, perhaps they did discover this entity and they were using cryogenics to keep it sleeping, and maybe
that even makes sense.
Extract, like, what do they do on sleeping entities? Like, okay, let's go to, what was that? Transformers, when they found Megatron and he was cryogenically frozen.
Right.
Yeah, and they're conducting experiments on him, and they want to keep him cryogenically frozen so they can continue to study this entity. what's not to say that is actually what happened? And why wouldn't, why would he keep buying more and more of this mountain if not to own all access points, to own this whole area so that nothing can come in? And he owns this, he owns the entity that is there as well.
And you bring that up, and I had mentioned this paved road really briefly. A lot of people don't think, oh wow, paved road, big deal. But why would you build a paved road the thing's like 5 miles long and it goes right to the lodge, unless you are bringing in very heavy equipment or machinery, things that you can't bring on a dirt road up a mountain. Like, you need a paved road.
Especially back when, and when was it that this was done? Do you recall the time when
This was in the 50s, between 45 and 55, 60.
And that's not like nowadays. Okay, yeah. Oh, you're building a ski lodge. Well, you better damn well pave that road. But if you're doing all this work, that's a lot of money, a lot of investment, a lot of time, a lot of effort to do that. It's easier just to put in a gravel road for that location.
Yeah. So I always thought the paved road was super weird. Like he put that in there for a reason, and it wasn't just to get people to the top. Like, there was a reason why they had to pave that road. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, you're definitely thinking of some things I've never thought of that make a lot of sense.
I think whenever you propose or you bring out new ideas, you get someone coming at it with a different perspective. You can always build on that. It's like, oh, okay, yeah, we can. I don't mind throwing out ideas because that's all I'm doing. I'm just tossing in my 2 cents and see where it takes us. Yeah, so that is kind of like the triangle. We've dabbled. It seems like they could make another Stranger Things on that or something like that.
Right. I mean, and those are my crazy theories. There's other well-known stories. There's a story of a Sasquatch that overturned a wagon in that was going up to this resort town, overturned it. All these people were all freaked out about it back in the 1800s. There's some other well-known stories from the area of Bigfoot. There's a white Bigfoot that's been seen. A lot of ghosts, a lot of people who live in the surrounding area. Their houses are haunted. I've talked to several of them. My uncle lived there. His house is haunted.
Lots of activity in that area is definitely what it sounded like. There is something peculiar happening in that. I wonder what the base rock is. If it's like granite or, well, of course, the mountains is probably granite in there, which is a big conductor for spiritual energy. Maybe of course, quartz granite. That's like Gettysburg as well. Gettysburg is completely underneath is quartz granite, which really amplifies any of these paranormal energies as well.
Oh yeah, I'm a huge proponent of the stone tape theory.
Fascinating. This is very, very interesting, Nick. I really appreciate you bringing this all up. I personally, myself, the most interesting part is this Dr. Davidson, and he was part of this Oakfield?
Oak Ridge.
Oak Ridge, thank you.
Very hard to remember. I know. I always want to call it Raven Rock.
So yeah, he's part of Oak Ridge Labs, which definitely has some suspicious activity. There is some crazy black ops kind of black budget things going on in there. Who knows what they're really doing? So if that's where he's originally from and then he's starting his own, well, I wonder what he was doing. And then he takes a vow of silence to silence himself, like, I can't speak anymore. Like, that's it. And just to maybe try to absolve himself.
Sorry, he didn't take a vow of silence, but he died. He died right before he gave like all the land to the people who did take a vow of silence.
Okay. I misunderstood. I thought he actually joined this monk.
No. He befriended a guy who talked to him before that guy took his vow of silence, who then kind of convinced him to give all his land to them.
And here's me being this conspiracy tinfoil hat wearing kind of guy. who better not to caretake for your land of craziness and whatnot for people who can't speak, who can't pass on the stories of what's going on.
Yeah. Exactly. And like I said, they're still there today.
Do you know how he died, actually, how Davidson died?
I don't know exactly how, but I think it was just old age and sickness. Like, he died in a hospital. And,
okay. I was hoping there was some sort of mysterious, like...
Not as far as I know. There actually might be. I mean, I only read that he had died in the hospital. He was a very well-respected man in the town.
Those are the ones who usually have the darkest secrets as well.
Right, exactly. That's what I'm saying. Like, this guy, somebody had randomly told me about this, and I looked into it, and I keyed in right on this guy. He was into some weird things. I know it.
Yeah. That's definitely something that, we need to go deeper on. Dr. Davidson and Oak Ridge Labs and Cryogenics.
Yeah, I wish. I've tried so hard to find the Wikipedia page that talked about all this, but there's no way to dig it up. It's just gone. Unless somebody saved it.
Of course.
For some reason.
Have you ever used the Wayback Machine?
No, I'm not a very technical dude.
Okay. So the Wayback Machine, if you can have that page or you put his name into the Wayback Machine, it will go back into the internet to pages that are no longer exist, for things that are gone, and it'll pull it up for you. So it's kind of like an archive. It's an archive. It's an archive of the internet, and it's called the Wayback Machine. And
like if a website or something?
What, sorry?
Is it like a website or something?
Yes, it is a website. And if you actually had, let's say you actually had the website, let's say you had that Wikipedia page, the original, like let's say you have the website address, you can put it in the Wayback Machine, and it will give you, here, there was a kind of a copy of it. We have a copy of it from 10 years ago. We have a copy of it from 15 years ago. We have a copy of it then. So you can actually go back and see the original. I know a lot of people who do that, especially in the conspiracy world, or I don't want to say conspiracy world. We'll say medical conspiracies of sorts. When you're trying to review something and they've changed the definitions or they change things on you, you can go back and say, no, this is actually really what it was. And they decided to change the literature or change the wording to make it sound more acceptable. And so you can do that for just about anything if you have the original website address and you can plug it in.
I used ChatGPT to go back pretty far. And like, I've never done this with ChatGPT at any point in time. And it was giving me like some weird, like, I don't even know what it was, metadata or something. And now I'm wondering if I could take whatever it gave me and plug that in. Because it was like, I was like almost there. Like, I could feel it in my fingers, but I just couldn't see it.
I will tell you, this latest update of ChatGPT, be careful. It is now twisting it's changing the actual reality, because I was doing research prior to it, because now it's ChatGPT 5, I think. Like it's the 5th version or something along that line. Prior to that, the 4th was great. This one, now, because I'm doing I'm studying Enochian magic. I'm doing episodes on Enochian magic. And the information it's giving me is wrong. Part of it is good. I'll say part of the information I'm getting is good because I'm cross-referencing everything. But there's certain I'm looking into what's called the 18 keys or 19 keys or the 19 calls. And the initial key, the first one, is exactly what it should be when I've gone and cross-referenced it. The 19th is what it should be. It's the other 17 that are not correct. And because I'm like, okay, I need to find this out, because if I'm doing this information, I need to make sure it's completely, though I will say the ChatGPT version seems more informative. And it's like, okay, this seems more real. But when I'm cross-referencing it with everything else that I can, it's not lining up. It seems like it's just this filler that they've created to make it sound good. So I'm looking into it. And just for your information, the keys and the calls, or the keys or calls, whatever you want to call them, are kind of like these dial in. So the first key or first call means that you are ready to communicate. And this is communicate with angels, angels, fallen angels. Let's be clear that it's usually fallen angels or other entities. And then we get up to the 19th. The 19th is like your access key to the ethers. The ethers are the different levels of realities stacked on top of each other. So there's 30 ethers stacked on top of us. We're at the bottom. And as you get further and further away, it becomes crazier and crazier. And there's always some sort of entity that is kind of ruling each of these ethers. Very interesting stuff.
Yeah. I played Uncharted 3. I don't know if you ever heard of this game.
I've heard Uncharted, but I've never actually played it.
Yeah. So it's like my favorite. He's a treasure hunter. Favorite video game franchise. The third one deals with a lot of Enochian stuff. John D plays a small role in.
John D plays again. Just to give, John D plays the biggest role in the rediscovery of Enochian magic.
Right. Yeah.
John D is quite. He is a brilliant man. This is back in the 1500s, and he was the one that believed that this language existed. And he took on Edward Kelly. Edward Kelly was a scryer, a seer, and John Dee was like the scientist, but also a spy as well. And they were able
007.
That's exactly. He would sign his letters to Elizabeth I, 007, which was 00 was for your eyes only, and 7. That one's still up in the air exactly what it is. 7 was a powerful number, a magical number, or a very lucky type of number. So that's why they think he signed it with a 7. But yeah, that's what 007 was kind of loosely derived from for that. But yeah, it's interesting. So John Dee and Edward Kelly were the kind of the, and when I say rediscoverers, because it's not like, it's believed that this all existed before with Adam. Adam communicated with God and to the angels using this type of language and these alphabet as well. So yeah, so it's interesting.
I just thought of this again. There's another game that I played that just came out. It was this Indiana Jones game in the Great Circle, and it a huge detail in it was they called it Adamic, and it was like the
Adamic
original
language. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. And they used it to like open these portals and travel across the world and things. It was crazy.
Yep. The Adamic language is Enochian. That is.
Oh, wow.
That
okay.
is the same. Yes, because they said there has been a lot of talk that the first initial language that Adam communicated to God with was an Adamic language, and they kind of gave it this. They called it the Enochian, but yes, it's one and the same. So, and when you're talking about opening portals, that's kind of like the keys. That's the 19th key. The 19th key is the one that opens the ethers, which are portals more or less. So you can have like the 19th.
Oh, wow, that's super weird because in the game they were traveling to all these different, it was called the Great Circle, and there were all these ancient sites that each site had a key, and they put it into this huge wheel at the end, and they opened this portal with it.
We go.
I don't know, sorry. It was a great game. I love that game.
It's so interesting how like pop culture ties in or kind of like revitalizes or reinvigorates this ancient actual true history, this true stuff that was around. So yeah, and this ties in with Aleister Crowley as well, because he apparently he went to all 30 ethers. He finished all 30 ethers, and it's supposed to give you some sort of greatness. But one thing is noted is that John noted that you don't look at these ethers or you don't use these keys as an observer. You're not like sitting behind a glass wall like, oh, okay, look at this. No, you are being affected as well. So it's not like you can't do or go to these things without being affected. So he was very, very cautious about doing any of these things. But these angels, as I do in quotations, angels were pressuring him to go faster, to do more. And when they gave him the keys or the calls, they actually gave it to him in reverse. They gave it backwards because they are so powerful to say that saying them forward like activates them. It's not like me just saying.
That's how they did it in the game.
There we go.
They would speak it, and then if you could speak the word, it would open the portal. So they had to like figure out how how to even speak the language.
Yeah, that is it. So they have the Enochian language, and so the angels gave it in reverse so that they wouldn't activate things, because if you speak it forwards, like you said, you would activate a call or a key. And there we go. So interesting. Nick, this has been a great conversation. I really enjoyed it. I would love to, have you back on or come on to your show too, just to keep on talking this. When I dive deeper into the Enochian magic, I'd love to come on and
that'd be awesome.
Give a I don't know, a little course on it, I guess you could say. I got to be careful though, because it's like saying, like Nietzsche says, when you stare at the abyss stares back. So you got to always be careful when you're doing these kinds of things.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah. So Nick, one last time, why don't you give a shout out to your show, please?
Yeah, sure. Almost Canon or Almost Canon Podcast. I mean, you can follow us. I mean, I have TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and I put a lot of. If you want to follow us on there, that's cool. I put a lot of stuff on that I don't put on, in audio form at all. And you can also follow us on, I prefer Apple Podcast or Spotify, or there's like, a dozen other ones that I have no idea. But yeah, we're mainly an audio show. I'm slowly moving over to YouTube. But yeah, Almost Canon Podcast.
Fantastic.
Kind of talk about the same stuff.
Awesome.
Talk about what we talked about here tonight. So
and there we go. And you were saying that you put out a lot of material that's not like audio material. Yeah, like a lot of times I see all your writing and I'm like, I'm sharing it to my group or something. So by all means, please share it to my group all the time, because it's very fascinating. I love it. But again, Nick,
okay, yeah.
I want to say thank you so much for spending the time and coming out and telling us about the triangle and Dr. Davidson. I will say Dr. Davidson is the most intriguing for me.
Yeah, me too. Definitely.
All right. Thank you.
I appreciate it. Yeah, no, thank you.
All right, everyone. That was Nick from Almost Canon Podcast. I want to say thank you again for coming out. It was great. Missing people, missing 411. We have a scientist from Oak Ridge Labs, Cryogenics, Nephilim, Giants. What else? A little bit of everything. So it's pretty much a jam-packed episode there. I was a fan. And then, of course, I jump off into Enochian magic. But that is really interesting, too, is all these games, Uncharted and then this Indiana Jones game that are using the Adamic language, which is the Enochian language as well. This pop culture is bringing it back. I wonder why. Of course, it's fascinating. It's interesting. But why are they bringing it back into our time right now? Just like the times of Noah, right? All right, everyone. Until next time, keep your curiosity wandering, keep the light lit, and always find your way home.
Beneath the stars where shadows grow, the Nephilim's echoes whisper low. Bigfoot roams through the forest deep, and Dogman prowls where the brave won't sleep. Across lost history we wonder why, seeking the truth that time tried to hide. Keep your curiosities wandering and the light lit, through the darkness don't ever quit. In the codex, the mysteries come, and always find your way back home. UFOs streak through the velvet skies, aliens watch with unblinking eyes. The paranormal hums where silence breaks, in the void of secrets a lantern wakes. Through hidden realms and stories untold, the code gas flame is a light to hold. Keep your curiosities wandering and the light lit, through the darkness don't ever quit. In the codex, the mysteries come, and always find your way back home. UFOs streak through the velvet skies, aliens watch with unblinking eyes. The paranormal hums where silence breaks, in the void of secrets a lantern wakes. through hidden realms and stories untold. The Codex flame is a light to hold. Keep your curiosities wandering in the light lit. Through the darkness, don't ever quit. In the Codex, the mysteries come and always find your way back home. Legends rise from the Earth's deep core, a lost legacy we can't ignore. With every step, the veil grows thin, revealing worlds where the strange begins. Keep your curiosities wandering in the light lit. Through the darkness, don't ever quit. In the Codex, the mysteries come and always find your way back home.